For the last 2 weeks, there has been a series of scandals and news releases and press releases about a number of famous people who have been sued for sexual misconduct in the United States. Everybody from Axl Rose to Jimmy Iovine to L.A. Reid to Cuba Gooding Jr. to Jamie Foxx to Marcellus Wiley to Harvey Pierre to Diddy. Now, what's interesting here for me is that the most enduring scandal of all the scandals, of all the people who are accused of sexual misconduct, is the one person who settled, and that's Diddy. A couple weeks ago, Cassie came out and filed a lawsuit against Diddy. Apparently, they had gone behind the scenes to resolve their matter. Diddy didn't want to settle. She went public with the lawsuit. A 35-page document came out, and we learned a lot about Cassie's allegations. We learned a lot about their relationship. We learned a lot about how Diddy gets down in his personal life, according to Cassie. Again, these are still allegations, so I want to be very clear. I'm not endorsing anybody's position on this. I'm not saying anything happened other than Diddy has been accused of lots of stuff. And the one thing that was noteworthy to me was people didn't jump to his defense. Even with Bill Cosby, there were people who were like, yeah, I've known Bill Cosby for a million years. He wouldn't do that. I've known Bill Cosby for a gajillion years. He wouldn't do that. Not a lot of Diddy defense. That doesn't mean he's guilty, but it damn sure doesn't endorse his innocence. But that's not what I want to talk about, because we talked about Diddy. Again, there's Diddy videos in the on the live. In the past week, in addition to stories coming out about the lawsuits against Diddy, in addition to people like Aaron Hall having old interviews dug up that kind of reinforce the idea that he and Diddy were engaged in various forms of sexual misconduct that corroborate the claims that people who are suing him are saying. Again, there's still allegations, but that's what they're saying. In addition to that, we've seen a lot of people come out with stories about Diddy. You can't go on YouTube and not see Gene, I believe his name is, Diddy's head of security, former head of security. Gene has been going in on Diddy. Gene Deal is his name. And he tells stories about Diddy's sex life. He tells stories about Diddy's alleged abuse. He tells stories about Diddy's alleged sexual proclivities. He tells all kinds of stories. Now, Gene Deal, who goes back with Diddy all the way back to the days of Biggie and Mace and all of them, Gene has disclosed so much information that he has painted a picture of Diddy as somebody who is indifferent to the well-being of others, as somebody who endorses violence, as somebody who is unfaithful, as someone who is manipulative. Interview after interview, he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds right, because I saw him do this with Kim Porter. Or, yeah, I could believe that because I heard him say that to Cassie. Or, I know he would do that because I was there when such and such happened. Another person came out, an even more kind of credible source in the minds of others, came out this week and said, oh, I can absolutely corroborate what happened. His name is Roger Bonds. Roger Bonds is a former bodyguard of Diddy. And he made Instagram posts. He posted his Instagram story about Diddy. And he said, this is not meant to be threats or snitching or anything like that against Cassie or Diddy or anyone else. This is me telling my truth as I truly remember it, for two reasons only. First, because I have 4 daughters. So on all dudes, my truth as I seen it, saw it, and was involved with for years. In other words, he's saying, this man comes out and says, basically, my conscience won't allow me to be quiet anymore. I'm not threatening anybody with a lawsuit, and I'm not snitching. All right. So those are two cases. And then we saw today, at the time that I'm talking to y'all, Columbus Short come out and say, I know it's true because Diddy tried me too. And then he tells a story, a very weird story about how Diddy called him after an event, after a party. Columbus Short said he was home in bed with his wife, and Puff calls him to come over to his hotel room. And he said, who's over there? And he said, just me. So not even innuendo, right? That's almost like a direct claim. So the question is, why are all these people coming out now to talk about Diddy? And let me be very clear. I'm not suggesting that they're not telling the truth. I'm not implying these people are lying at all. This is what I'm saying, though. People are using the Gene Deal's interviews for content, up the yin yang. Every day, you see 500,000 views from him talking about some new thing about Diddy and sex. And it seems to me that Gene is telling the truth in his mind, but exploiting the situation. The other brother, Roger Bond, is saying, yeah, I agree with this story. I believe it's true. He said, I'm not snitching and I'm not threatening. Snitching makes sense. Threatening, you might say, what would a threat be? The threat would be effectively saying, I'm going to start putting information out, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to keep talking because I know things about you. And the allegations are getting more and more extreme. I'm not saying they're not true, but they're getting more and more extreme. People are implying that Diddy may have killed Kim Porter. People are implying that Diddy may have been involved in all kinds of things, right? The question for me is why? Why? So somebody like Columbus Short, it seems to me, is just jumping on the bandwagon, right? Columbus Short doesn't want no money from Puff. He doesn't say Puff did anything to him. He's jumping on the bandwagon, potentially for attention. And he doesn't seem to be expressing any regard for the women who are harmed in this. So it's not like he's trying to look out for the women. Roger Bond is saying, well, I got to do this because I got daughters. I'm always fascinated by people who only can appreciate not being sexually violent, not being abusive when they have daughters, right? Women exist in the world, and before you create one out of your own body or with your own body, you still should be able to appreciate that women don't deserve to be raped or coerced or manipulated, right? We should be able to be good to women with or without that. That's a whole other video, a whole other conversation. But the point is, he's coming out now. Now, I agree that sometimes it takes a while to get courage, or you need a community to make you courageous, or you're worried about powerful people ending your career or worse. And so you need a lot of people to be in the room in order for you to do it, because they can't get all of us. I get that. And sometimes that's why people speak up. That's why women speak up in cases like Bill Cosby. I get that. But it's also fascinating to watch what people are saying and what they're picking at. People are picking at the sexual innuendos in particular. There's a way that the outrage and the disgust people have isn't that Diddy allegedly subjected Cassie to mental or physical abuse. A lot of people are responding to the fact that there might have been another man in the room. There might have been some same-sex stuff happening. And so a lot of it, to me, is undergirded by homophobia, or it's exploiting homophobia. Like, I know what'll get me some money. I'll talk about Puffy being in a room with a dude. That'll get me some money. Puffy with 3 women. If Puffy makes Cassie have a threesome or a foursome with 2 other women, ain't nobody tripping, right? But dudes, oh my God. Yeah, right. So they're playing on the homophobia to exploit it. Again, if Diddy is guilty, he should be held accountable. And these people are telling the truth, they should be heard. I'm talking about the men, the bodyguards and stuff like that. But I can't help but notice how a cottage industry in America, everything becomes monetized. Everything becomes financially exploitable. And in this case, it's very clear that the people who are exploiting this crisis right now, it's not Cassie. Cassie is asking for justice and filed a civil suit to get justice. The other 2 women are seeking justice. The people who are actually exploiting the situation for money, it's not the women, it's these dudes. I'm gonna say that one more time in case you missed it. There's a lot of people out there saying that these women are exploiting a situation for money. Nah, bro. The women are saying, I was harmed and I need to be made whole. It's the men going online like Columbus Short with random stories to try to create stigma and shame around sexuality that that are actually exploiting the situation. It's the bodyguards who suddenly got religion and now want to tell the story. Here's my thing. If you've been, if you've been, if you've been with Puff and Bad Boy since 1994, and now 30 years later, you're telling the story because it's profitable, to me, I can't respect character-wise. You stood there and watched the abuse. You watched the exploitation. You watched the violence and did nothing. You got some reckoning to do too. And I hope whoever interviews these people, and I'd love to talk to them myself, I want to know, why are y'all just talking now? Now, Gene's been talking for a minute, but why are y'all not working toward justice for these women if y'all are really outraged? It seems like y'all just trying to make money. I see Dana Cooper say, who cares that Diddy's bisexual? It's the abuse towards women. I don't know anything about Diddy's sexuality. I'm not saying he's bisexual. And right, the story should be the women. The story should be the women. The story should be, he's been alleged to do harm to women. Is it true? And if so, how do we create justice? That should be the question. But once again, we tend to focus on the tawdry parts of the story, and that's deeply problematic. And then, of course, there's 50 Cent. 50 Cent has taken trolling to a new level. 50 Cent has taken trolling to a new level. For the last 2 weeks, 50 Cent has been relentless in his attacks or criticism of Diddy. Every time a new scandal comes out, 50 Cent posts it to his Instagram page. Every time a new allegation comes out about Diddy, 50 Cent posts it to his Instagram page. Now, he's always been competitive with Puff. He's always gone on shows like The Breakfast Club and made fun of Diddy, made fun of Puff. But now he's taking what was kind of a playful thing and really helping double down. Now, a generous read of this is 50 Cent is outraged by the allegations that have been made against Diddy, and he wants the women to get justice. That's a generous read. That's like a Mother Teresa generous read. The problem is it's not supported by facts. It's not supported by the evidence. It seems to me that in every tweet, every Instagram post, every commentary, 50 Cent is simply mocking Puff, reinforcing homophobic tropes and narratives. And now, after Diddy decided he was going to step down as chairman of Revolt, he said, why don't you sell me Revolt? Now, here's where 50 Cent gets really interesting, right? He puts up a post. I'm going to pull this post up because y'all got to see this. It's actually quite fascinating. 50 Cent pulls up a post. Writes a post to Puff saying, why don't you sell me Revolt? But he doesn't just ask him to sell him Revolt, right? He says, I'll buy that from you, Playboy, for the low, because you know Cadillac and AT&T gonna pull out. I'll give you a few dollars for it now. So he's doing two things there. Well, three things. One, he's mocking Puff, and he's drawing attention to the fact that he's failing, right? He's finding pleasure in Puff's failure. Two, he's drawing attention to the sponsors, Cadillac and AT&T. Why? Because he wants Cadillac and AT&T to pull out. He wants to devalue the company so that he can get it cheaper, or wants to apply pressure subtly to scare him into selling the company. This is my interpretation. I could be wrong. But when he says Cadillac and AT&T going to pull out, people don't know who sponsors Revolt, but now they do. And he's also creating space for people who are outraged at what Puff allegedly did, which they should be, to write to Cadillac and AT&T, and say, why are you still in the Diddy business? Why are you still in the Revolt business? So 50 Cent is using this as a source of opportunism as well. And again, if you read 50 Cent's posts, most of them are not criticizing Puff for alleged abuse against women. He's mocking him or being outraged about alleged homosexuality. And so again, he is needling Puff. He is attacking Puff not for a principled reason, but in a way that reinforces homophobia and in a way that serves his own potential financial interests, because he would love nothing more than to take over Revolt, partly for money because it's good business, and partly so he could say he defeated Diddy, because 50 Cent is a monster, and he's relentless, and he has wanted to be on a higher tier as Jay-Z and Puff for a long time. He's always competitive with them. He's always honest about being competitive with them, and so this becomes another thing. But it's a little sad to me that it's no longer friendly competition as we enter this space, because now there are real people who've been harmed, real people who are claiming harm, real people who are looking for justice. And instead, this is becoming another hyper masculine proxy war that I don't necessarily want to see.